Welcome to RAITA, the subreddit where people share their stories and ask if they're the asshole in tricky situations. Today, I want to tell you about something that started out as a simple gym routine but quickly turned into a nightmare. I'm the original poster here, and this is the story of how I got stalked by a crazy gym lady. I've been going to the gym almost every day for the last couple of years. It's my way of staying healthy and clearing my head after work. The gym I go to is pretty decent, nothing fancy, but it has all the machines and equipment I need. About 6 months ago, I noticed a woman there. I didn't know her at first, but she seemed familiar because I started to see her around regularly. Her name is Andrea. We never really talked much in the beginning, just the usual nods or polite smiles as we passed each other in the locker room or near the water fountain. One day, while I was on the treadmill, I realized the TV screen attached to it wasn't working. I mentioned it out loud, wondering if anyone else had noticed the problem. Andrea happened to be walking by and told me she had the same issue with a different machine. I thanked her, and that was the extent of our conversation. Simple, harmless, and nothing more. At that point, I had no idea this brief exchange would be the start of something way more complicated. Looking back now, the tone of those early interactions was calm and casual, but I could feel that something was just a little off. What started as an everyday gym routine was about to change in ways I never expected. After that first brief exchange about the treadmill TV, Andrea started talking to me a bit more often. At first, the conversations were casual and pretty normal, just gym small talk. She'd ask what kind of workouts I was doing or mention how busy the gym felt that day. Sometimes she'd say hi when she walked past or smile from across the room. It seemed friendly enough, but there was something a little unusual about how she acted. For example, she'd often show up right when I got to the gym or seem to find me no matter what time I went. If I was on the weights, she might suddenly appear nearby, asking questions about my routine or commenting on my progress. It wasn't creepy exactly, but it was a little persistent, like she was paying a lot more attention to me than a regular gym buddy would. One day, about a week after we first talked, Andrea came up to me while I was filling my water bottle. She asked if I had any electrolyte powder she could borrow for her drink. I didn't have any on me, but she didn't seem upset or offended. Instead, she smiled and asked me how long I'd been coming to this gym. I told her I'd been coming here for a couple of years, and she said she was pretty new to the area. She also mentioned she worked in private security, which seemed interesting. We chatted for a few minutes about our jobs and how the gym was a good place to relieve stress. Her tone was casual, but she had this way of looking at me like she wanted to know more than she was letting on. The conversation stayed friendly, but felt a bit intense at times. Over the next few weeks, we kept having these light talks. Andrea asked me about my favorite workouts, what music I listened to, even what kind of diet I followed. I thought it was normal gym chatter, but sometimes she would ask questions that felt a little too personal. Still, I didn't want to be rude, so I answered. That's when I started to feel a subtle unease. Andrea was friendly, but her persistence grew, and I realized she was trying to get closer than just casual gym acquaintances. It wasn't uncomfortable enough to say anything yet, but it definitely made me start to think twice about our interactions. About 6 weeks into our growing acquaintance, Andrea surprised me by asking me out. It happened right after a workout when she casually mentioned grabbing coffee sometime. She said something like, "Hey, maybe we could hang out outside the gym. Just to chill, no pressure." At first, I was caught off guard because I hadn't seen her coming from that angle. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I responded as politely as I could. I told her I wasn't looking to date anyone right now. I explained that I valued our gym interactions, but wasn't interested in anything more. I made sure to be clear, but gentle, hoping she'd understand. Andrea nodded and said she appreciated my honesty. She reassured me that it wouldn't be awkward between us at the gym if I said no, that we could still keep things friendly. For a moment, I felt relieved. I thought that would be the end of it, and we'd just go back to normal gym routines. But Andrea kept showing up, still chatting and acting friendly as before. At first, I kept up the conversation, thinking maybe she really did want to stay friends. But after a while, I started feeling uneasy. I noticed she was hanging around me more often, even when I wasn't in the mood to talk. Sometimes I caught her watching me during workouts or waiting nearby after I finished. The friendly vibe started to feel like something else, more persistent, less casual. I wasn't sure if I was overthinking it or if Andrea was actually becoming a problem. My discomfort grew little by little, but I didn't want to be rude or cause drama. I kept trying to stay polite, hoping the situation would settle down on its own. Still, deep down, I felt a tension creeping in. Something was definitely off, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. After that initial rejection, I started trying to avoid Andrea without making things obvious. At first, I just changed my workout times, going to the gym earlier or later than usual. I hoped that if I wasn't around when she showed up, things would cool off. But it didn't work as planned. Andrea seemed to know my schedule better than I expected and still managed to find me. One afternoon while I was on the rowing machine, I noticed her standing nearby, watching me. When I finished, she approached me directly and asked, "Are you avoiding me?" I tried to laugh it off and said I was just busy or focused on my workout. She didn't seem convinced and asked again, "Why won't you talk to me like before?" I told her honestly that I wasn't interested in dating and that I just needed some space. Andrea said, "You don't have to avoid me just because you don't want to date me." I agreed politely, but the situation wasn't getting easier. The more I tried to be nice, the more persistent she became. A few days later, I was on the leg press machine, and Andrea walked right up to me again. There was no way to step away without interrupting my set because the gym equipment is packed tightly. She cornered me with questions and tried to start a conversation. I felt cornered, and my patience was wearing thin. I politely told her I needed to focus on my workout and that I wasn't trying to be rude. She smiled but said, "You don't have to be rude to me." That felt like a direct challenge. I realized this wasn't going to stop anytime soon. My anxiety started growing. The gym was supposed to be my space to unwind, but Andrea's presence made me tense. I didn't know how to get her to back off without creating a scene or making things worse. I just wanted her to leave me alone. The tension was building, and I was worried that the friendly gym environment was turning into something uncomfortable and even unsafe. I knew I needed to figure out how to handle this before it got out of control. One evening, after a long, exhausting day, I went to the gym hoping for a quiet workout to clear my head. But as soon as I started, Andrea appeared again. This time, she didn't just try to chat. She confronted me directly while I was on one of the machines. There was only one way to get off it properly: stepping right where she was standing. She blocked my path and said, "Why are you avoiding me?" I felt the surge of frustration I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. I snapped, "Look, just leave me alone. I'm tired of this. Please stop." Andrea's eyes narrowed, but instead of backing away, she did something unexpected. She put her foot on top of the weights I was using, the exact weights I was pushing up and down during my workout. My heart jumped. I wasn't sure if she meant to interfere, but it felt like she was daring me. Suddenly, I released the bar quickly, and the weight slammed down with a loud clang that echoed through the gym. Heads turned. People stopped their workouts and stared in our direction. The sudden noise broke the usual gym calm and made the room tense. Andrea smirked and said sarcastically, "Now who's embarrassing themselves?" She didn't wait for a response. Without another word, she turned on her heel and walked away, leaving a thick silence behind her. I stood there, breathing heavily, unsure if I had just made things worse. The other gym members' eyes lingered on me. Some looked sympathetic, others clearly uncomfortable. I wasn't sure if they thought I was the problem or if they understood what was happening. As Andrea disappeared from sight, I felt a strange mix of relief and guilt. Did I go too far by telling her off so harshly? Was I overreacting? Was I supposed to just keep pretending everything was fine, even though I felt cornered and anxious every time I saw her? That night, I lay awake thinking about what had happened. Was this confrontation going to escalate things? Would Andrea continue to push boundaries or even become more aggressive? I knew I couldn't ignore the situation anymore. Something had to change. Either she backed off, or I had to find a way to protect myself. But I also worried about how other people at the gym would see me. Would they think I was the bad guy in this story? Could this spiral out of control and make me feel unsafe in a place I used to enjoy? The suspense of what would happen next weighed heavily on me. I wanted to find a way out of this nightmare, but I wasn't sure how. A few days after the confrontation, I didn't expect to see Andrea again at the gym. But there she was, approaching me cautiously as I was finishing my workout. She looked a little different, softer somehow, maybe realizing things had gotten out of hand. "I'm sorry about the weights incident," she said quietly. "I didn't mean to cause a scene." I appreciated the apology and nodded. "Thanks. I'm sorry too for calling you embarrassing myself. I needed to say it." Andrea smiled faintly and said, "I forgive you. But if you really want to make it up to me, maybe we could buy each other a drink. You know, to reset things." I hesitated. I wanted to keep things simple and clear between us. "Maybe we could just buy our own drinks, separately," I said carefully, hoping to avoid any misunderstanding. But she jumped on that and asked eagerly, "When and where?" I didn't mean together," I stammered. "I just meant not a date or anything." Andrea's smile disappeared. "So you don't want to hang out?" I tried to explain. "I just don't want to be friends. I think we both need space." Her face hardened. "You're being a douche," she snapped. "What's your problem?" I took a deep breath and said, "The weight thing made me uncomfortable. I want us to respect each other's space." She suddenly asked, "Is your problem that I'm Hispanic?" Her question shocked me. I hadn't even known she was Hispanic until that moment. "No," I said firmly. "You just make me uncomfortable." Andrea argued against every point I made, twisting my words and making me doubt myself. I tried to stay calm but felt trapped in the conversation, like I couldn't win no matter what I said. Finally, I raised my voice, "Just stay away from me." She sneered and said, "Fine. You have a lot of maturing to do," then turned and walked away. I was left standing there, shaken and unsure what to think. The whole thing had escalated far beyond what I ever expected. I felt cornered, the tension between us growing heavier with every encounter. What was going to happen next? I hoped this was the end, but deep down, I knew things weren't over yet. 4 days after the tense conversation, I went to the gym for my usual morning run. I was focused, trying to shake off the stress from the previous days. The treadmill TV was playing some local news, and I barely noticed Andrea walk up beside me. Suddenly, without warning, she reached over and yanked the safety tab off the treadmill, the small clip you attach to your wrist that immediately stops the machine if you fall. The treadmill jerked to a sudden halt, throwing me off balance. I stumbled forward, hitting the control panel and scratching my chin on the top of the screen. The pain was sharp, and I felt a wave of shock as I caught my breath. Andrea didn't say a word. She just stood there watching. I immediately went to the front desk, nursing my chin, with Andrea trailing behind. I explained to the staff what had happened, how she pulled the safety tab while I was running, causing me to fall and get hurt. Andrea started interrupting me, trying to talk over what I was saying, but the staff at the front desk firmly told her to be quiet and wait her turn. They asked Andrea what had happened from her side. She claimed that she thought I was in some kind of medical episode because I was staring off into the distance like I was in a fugue state. So, she said, she pulled the tab to help. The front desk staff then asked Andrea for her membership card. She hesitated at first, reluctant to hand it over, but the staff made it clear that refusal would lead to an immediate ban. Andrea gave them the card, but then she started arguing with the woman at the desk. Things escalated quickly, and Andrea began using racial slurs, calling the staff member the N-word and the B-word. The staff member was shocked, but stayed professional, and after a brief but intense exchange, Andrea was banned from the gym permanently. While part of me felt relieved, finally, some justice, I couldn't help but feel sympathy for the staff who had to deal with Andrea's harassment. No one should have to face that kind of abuse at work. Still, as I left the gym that day, I wondered if this was really the end. Andrea's anger and persistence scared me, and I wasn't sure if she'd find a way to come back or cause more trouble somewhere else. For now, though, I had some peace. The gym felt safer, and I could finally breathe a little easier. A few days after the gym ban, I thought things might finally settle down. But last night, I had a completely unexpected encounter that shook me all over again. I went to a bar near my apartment to meet some friends. The atmosphere was relaxed, the music was low, and we were just catching up over drinks. We were laughing and having a good time when suddenly Andrea appeared out of nowhere. I didn't see her walk in, but there she was, standing right in front of us. She smiled and greeted me like nothing was wrong. Then, without warning, she leaned in and tried to kiss me. I quickly pushed her away, surprised and uncomfortable. She stumbled back, nearly falling, but one of my friends caught her just in time. Andrea immediately started yelling, "What the F is wrong with me? Why won't you let me be close to you?" I told her firmly to stay away from me and not to come any closer. She asked if I was embarrassed of her or didn't want my friends to see her. I was blunt. "This is the third time you've tried to assault me, and I want you to stay away." At that moment, a bouncer noticed the commotion and came over to see what was going on. Andrea claimed that I had pushed her, twisting the story. I tried to explain. I was being stalked, and she tried to kiss me. But I was a little drunk and struggled to make myself clear. My friends backed me up, but they were also tipsy and not entirely coherent. The bouncer wasn't having any of it and decided to kick me out of the bar, assuming I was the troublemaker. My friends walked me home afterward, frustrated and worried. After that night, I knew I couldn't let this continue. I'm definitely going to pursue a restraining order. Andrea's behavior had crossed so many lines. It wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. It was harassment and stalking. As I sit here thinking about what happened, I'm filled with tension and uncertainty. Will this restraining order finally stop her? Or is this just the beginning of something worse? For now, all I can do is hope the law will protect me and that I'll be safe again. Looking back on everything that's happened, I'm still trying to make sense of it all. At first, it felt like just harmless conversations at the gym, nothing more than casual small talk. But Andrea's behavior slowly escalated from friendly to uncomfortable, and then to downright scary. I feel a mix of frustration and fear. Frustration because I tried to be polite and set clear boundaries, but those were ignored or misunderstood. Fear because her actions became dangerous, like pulling the safety tab on the treadmill, and invasive, even stalking me outside the gym. At the same time, I can't help but feel some sympathy. It's clear Andrea struggles with her own issues, and maybe that's part of why she acted the way she did. Still, none of that excuses crossing my boundaries and making me feel unsafe. I had to be firm. I had to protect myself. But now I wonder, was I too harsh? Did I handle things the right way? Should I have been more understanding or patient? Or was standing my ground the only way to keep safe? I'm turning to the community here on AITA to help me sort this out. Was I wrong for setting such firm boundaries? Did I overreact when I told Andrea to leave me alone? How would you have handled someone who kept pushing despite clear no's? This whole situation feels like it's far from over, and I'm not sure what's coming next. So, I want to hear your thoughts, judgment, advice, or just your perspective. Am I the asshole here? Thanks for reading, and please be honest. I really need your help.